Congressman-elect Craig Goldman of the 12th Congressional District. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me.
So what are you thinking now as you're heading to Washington, and what are the top 3 promises that you made on the campaign trail that you intend to keep?
Well, I said it the other night. Look, I passed substantial legislation in the Texas State House in my 12 years that I was there. And I want to take many of those ideas that I passed there that benefited the people of Texas and take those up to Washington, D.C., and pass them on behalf of the people of the United States of America. One of them was a bill called Molly Jane's Law, where we got sexual predators off the streets in the state of Texas. Another bill that we passed was a fentanyl bill. Fentanyl being the #1 killer of 18 to 45-year-olds in our country. We need a national federal fentanyl bill to get these dealers and distributors off our streets and put away and put behind bars.
So right now, here we are 2 days after the election, we still don't know whether Republicans are going to retain the majority in the House or if Democrats are going to retake the majority. And I'm wondering, how does this impact how you're going to be able to govern?
Well, it certainly will impact how we're governed. I mean, obviously, as a Republican, I want us best to have a majority. I want to be able to work with President Trump and his administration, and certainly a Republican Senate that we know we're going to have, hopefully a majority leader in John Cornyn. But obviously, it's easier for us to have control of all 3 branches, and you know, we'll see what happens. But I feel confident that Republicans will maintain majority in the U.S. House. And then we go to work, in providing tax relief for the citizens of the United States and securing our border here in Texas. You know, since I've been in the state legislature, we spent over $18 billion on border security. We want that line item in the Texas state budget to go away because it's a federal government's problem. I think with the Trump administration, they'll be able to step up and pay for all the things that we in the state of Texas have so that that $18 billion can go back into the taxpayers of the people of Texas.
And Governor Abbott said as much yesterday during a news conference in Tyler that he hopes that will free up money in the state legislature. But I'm wondering, there's also a bill out there, I believe, still that the Congress would reimburse the state of Texas for the money that has been spent. Where are you on that?
They should. I'll be fighting for it, absolutely. It has been a federal government issue all these years. The people of Texas have had to step up. We in the state legislature have had to step up to fill that gap of the federal government's fault and mistake of not securing our border. So thankfully, we had the funds in Texas that we were able to do it, and we should ask for a reimbursement from the United States government. I'll be fighting for that, because every dime that we can get from the federal government and give it back to the state of Texas, that money can be returned to the taxpayers in Texas.
And so you also mentioned tax cuts before, and Congress this year, this coming session starting in January, is going to have to make a decision about whether to make permanent or let the Trump tax cuts from 2017 expire.
Well, I'm certainly going to be voting to make those tax cuts permanent. There's no question. Absolutely. The federal government wastes so much money. And I'm going to be looking forward to going in there. I certainly have a record of fighting for tax cuts to the citizens in Texas. And now I get the opportunity to go to the U.S. Congress and be a fighter for tax cuts for people in the United States of America. Because we absolutely, as a country, spend way too much money. We have a $35 trillion deficit. One, that's ridiculous because we just waste money. We spend money on things needlessly, and we need to provide tax cuts to the people in the United States of America.
And so, because that is an issue as far as the debt, the national debt is so high, as you mentioned. So how do you plan on making that case?
Cut spending. I mean, I look forward to serving on whatever committee I have, whatever committee I'm given, and I'm honored to serve on any committee that I am.
Do you have any committees that you'd rather be on?
I mean, look, I'm happy to serve on any committee.
But if you had your choice?
Well, look, losing Kay Granger off appropriations matters. It matters to my district, strictly because of the people at Lockheed Martin that go build the F-35 every single day. 19,000 men and women do that every single day. That matters to my district. So I certainly want to make sure those federal funds continue to come in to help build the F-35 program. But I've also been the energy chair in the Texas State House the last 4 years. So being on the energy committee would matter to the people in my district, to the people of Texas as well. And the good news is, with President Trump back in there, with a focus on oil and gas, instead of shutting down oil and gas, the way the Biden Secretary of Energy actually spoke against the oil and gas community. I've never seen it before in my life. The Energy Secretary of the United States of America speaking out against the very industry that she's supposed to promote. That's over now. That's good news. So I certainly would be honored to serve on any of those committees where I could represent my district well.
And you also mentioned border security before. What specific legislation would you like to see Congress pass?
Well, again, specifically, it's not necessarily legislation that needs to be passed. It's common sense. I went down there in December, and the federal Border Patrol officers were told to stand down. Don't do your jobs anymore. The most demoralized group of people you've ever met, because they were hired to do a job to protect our border, to arrest people who are illegally crossing the border, detain them, and send them back to their country they came from. That's the way it was working. They were told to stand down, don't do that more, process the people coming across, and then release them and promise them court dates in 2 to 3 years from now. That's ridiculous policy. And so the good news is that policy will change, right? We'll get the Trump administration back in there, and those federal patrol officers will be able to now arrest people who come across our border illegally, but not only people, the drugs. The amount of drugs that cross that border every single day will blow you away. And we've seen it when they catch the number of people bringing over drugs, enormous amount of drugs, and fentanyl being one of them. Fentanyl is coming across our southern border. We know it. And it's a number one killer of people in our country from 18 to 45-year-old. And we have a federal government today that looks the other way and lets that happen. I don't understand it. So the good news is we'll be able to shut that down as well.
But doesn't there need to be legislation? Because when you look at it, first you had, going back to Trump. Mm-hmm. He's in office, and before that, I mean, the presidents have executive authority,
yes,
right? And so they decide how they want to enforce the laws that are already on the books based on their executive actions. But shouldn't there be, if you want change, whatever it is on the border, shouldn't Congress codify it?
Well, I think Congress has. I mean, we don't need a law to say it's illegal to enter our country if you're not from here.
But if there's all this...
We need enforcement.
Right, but if there's all this interpretation on how to enforce the laws...
Yes.
Right, doesn't there need to be some change then?
Well, I think there needs to be an agreement with the federal government of exactly what the law is. And to your point, if it's not codified in there, but it seems like it would be, that if you cross the border and you enter our country illegally, you're not from here, you should be arrested and sent back to the country you came from. If it's not codified, then certainly I will fight to help make sure that it is.
Is there anything else on your radar as you head up to Washington?
Well, a lot of things are. I mean, like I said, we're in a strange situation in our country, and thankfully we have President Trump and his administration coming back to help solve all these problems. People are suffering. The inflation is out of control, and the price of goods in our grocery stores are way out of control as well. So, look, we believe in limited government, right? So I want to shrink government. I want to be less spending. I want to provide tax relief to the people in the United States of America, certainly in Texas and certainly in Tarrant County and Parker County, and so that they can live better lives and not be dependent on government, but be dependent on themselves and their families to get by every single day.
Congressman-elect Craig Goldman of the 12th Congressional District, thank you so much.
Thanks,
we appreciate
Jack.
it.
Thanks very much.
Congratulations
Thank you.
again.